here today announcing a lawsuit just filed today in the Circuit Court of Cook County. This is a civil rights lawsuit to stop the export of guns from suburbs into Chicago's African American neighborhoods. These three suburbs, Riverdale, Lyons, and Lincolnwood, account for a disproportionate number of guns that are recovered from the crime scenes in Chicago's African American neighborhoods. What we want these villages to do is to implement the proven methods of administration of their laws that will stop and decrease the flow of these guns that directly harm African Americans in Chicago. We're not picking a fight with these suburbs. We just want them to implement these basic changes to their laws that will prevent this disproportionate impact on African Americans. We're here with a number of clients today, led by the Coalition for a Safe Chicago and working with the Gun Violence Prevention Pact. And what I'm really here to do is just turn it over to the clients and let them tell the story about what we need to do in this civil rights lawsuit to stop the flow of guns into Chicago. So I'll turn it over to Reverend Michael Flager to start.
I'm here this morning as part of this lawsuit because I'm tired of seeing the bloodbath taking place in our city streets. We all understand the reality. Since January 1st, 1,358 people have been shot, with over 203 of them died. Since January 1st of this year, we've got a serious problem with violence. While gun shops like Chuck's are running to the bank, and villages like Riverdale, Lyons, and Lincolnwood close their eyes to receive tax income. The violence in America and in Chicago is indeed a civil rights issue. Our families and our children have a right to safety. They have a right to live. They have a right to walk to school, to play outside, and to sit on their porch and not be afraid of being shot or killed. And although the solution to violence is indeed comprehensive, part of the problem is the proliferation of guns. We have to stop easy access to guns in America. And we've got to stop bad gun dealers who allow guns to flow from their stores to create carnage on our streets. So what do we want? We want regulation and best practice dealerships. Illinois does not regulate gun dealers, leaving it to the local municipalities. And Riverdale, Lyons, and Lincolnwood have failed to require the safety measures that are needed for good dealership, which is why guns from their stores are recovered in large numbers in Chicago crime scenes. I know why gun stores and the National Rifle Association and gun manufacturers do not want good best practices, because as an NRA member told me, the #1 consumer of guns in America is the criminal. If we stop easy access to guns, there's less guns sold. When there's less guns sold, manufacturers make less money, and then they can pay less money to the NRA lobby. It's all about making money. Today we say enough. So Riverdale, Lyon, and Lincolnwood, you have failed to enforce best practices on your own. We pray that this lawsuit will now force your hand, because it's time to shut off the gun flow onto the streets of Chicago.
My name is Reverend Robert Hood, pastor Redeemer Outreach Ministries in North Lyondale West Side. We're here today to file this lawsuit. As many of you all know, for years I've been on the battlefield fighting violence on every end of the spectrum. And we today are on one accord in the city of Chicago to stop this flow of guns in the poorest community in the country. For instance, North Lyondale. On the other day, I asked the young man, did he have access to a bus pass? It took only a week to find out he had access to a gun, where he shot somebody and killed somebody. This has to stop.
Right.
And those that are part of it, the perpetrators that just get money, while our communities suffer violence, our mothers, our children are getting killed and shot in record numbers, it's unacceptable. And I would never get used to it. I'm here today because my mother suffered with 2 kids that was killed by gun violence. I'm here today because my uncle was killed by a young child that had access to a gun. And we today, filing this lawsuit, this is only the beginning. We're going to continue on this path until we bring them to justice, those that sell these guns and don't care about how it affects our communities. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam Bosley, and I'm here today on behalf of my son, Terrell Bosley, who was shot and killed at the age of 18 by a illegal gun. Terrell's life was taken on church grounds that should have been safe. And from listening to the NRA a couple weeks ago, the perception of our black men are that they're all in gangs and they're selling drugs. But I'm here to tell you today that that's not true. Terrell was not in a gang and did not sell drugs, and his life was taken on church grounds. Terrell was a gospel bass player, had a job working at KCR, and he was a college student. So that's not a true perception of our black men. So what I'm here to, I'm standing and I'm asking for the pursuit of happiness within our communities and our black and brown communities. We need the guns off the streets, so we're going after the Chuck's gun shops area, Riverdales, and the different villages that's outside of Chicago that is allowing guns to be spread throughout our communities. So I'm going to be the voice of Terrell and continue to be the voice of Terrell to save our young people so we can get the guns off the streets.
Good morning. My name is Annette Nance Holt, and my only child, Blair Holt, was killed May 10, 2007 by a teenager with a gun who boarded a crowded bus as young people were coming home from school doing the right things, the things that we asked them to do. He shot 5 young people that day. My son was the only one that died as a result of it. But there is no way a teenager should have a gun in his hands. He can't get an education, he can't get a job, but he got a gun in his hands. We found out that our communities are being flooded with guns. Now, he got 100 years, but that doesn't bring back Blair, and it doesn't bring back any other Blairs out there that go unspoken of. We have to do something. Everybody has to take a stand to help us get these guns off the street. And this is just one step in many that we're going to take to try to get illegal guns out of our communities. Because it is no way that you can get a gun faster than you get something to eat on the south side or the west side of the city of Chicago. So I ask everybody, don't look at us like we're trying to take your rights away. It's not about that. We want you to do the right thing. Enforce strict rules on people who purchase guns. This is not about taking guns. It's about making Chicago safer. And if you believe in this fight, stand with us and speak up. Thank you.
Are there questions?
Who can address how this regulation would work? What regulations are you talking about?
Well, the city of Chicago had a study that looked at a few things that could be done that would just really dramatically impact the flow of guns. There's things like employee background checks, building safety and surveillance at these gun shops, training to stop straw purchasers. That's a real big one. You just have basic training to stop straw purchasers. You need to have a log of gun sales that were traced to crimes. And you can develop a customer blacklist so that when people are known to purchase guns that end up being used in crimes, you don't sell them guns. Common sense. And you can look to control inventory and prevent theft. So these things are all documented.
Has this type